We celebrate more than 80 years of close partnership between the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Ever since President Franklin Roosevelt met with King Solomon's father, King Abdul Aziz, aboard the USS Quincy in 1945, the U.S.-Saudi relationship has been a bedrock of security and prosperity. Today we reaffirm this important bond, and we take the next steps to make our relationship closer, stronger, and more powerful than ever before.
For one frenetic week in May, President Trump moved the diplomatic center of gravity to the Gulf. Arms deals, AI chip ventures, even whispers of a Gulf of America rebrand, all compressed into 96 hours of high-stakes deal-making. The White House calls it a golden age for the Middle East. CNN labeled it the most audacious reset of America's regional playbook since 1945. But what's actually happening beneath the lavish ceremonies and trillion-dollar promises? I'm Ken, and on this episode of Expert Playback, historian Victor Davis Hanson argues Trump's Gulf Gambit has a single ambitious goal: replace decades of regional strife with economic interdependence and somehow convince Iran to abandon hostility.
The subtext of all of these meetings were, we're going to replace strife with money, we're all going to be profitable, and we have to bring the cause of all of this trouble, Iran, into the fold of the Middle East and drop the hostility to Israel.
That line encapsulates the trip's essence. Where previous administrations lectured Gulf monarchies on human rights, Trump offered economic partnership. The White House framed the visit not around security, but around what Trump called a prosperous future, orchestrated from Riyadh.
Most of the Arab countries have gone beyond or evolved beyond the Yom Kippur War. So they're not really engaged in a military conflict with Israel. They have no desire to. They would lose. And they get along fairly well. So it's just Iran. And he's trying to get most of the Gulf money to recognize Israel and to make deals with the United States, and then to tell Iran you're going to be even poorer because you're going to be sanctioned, isolated, embargoed.
In addition to purchases of $142 billion of American-made military equipment by our great Saudi partners, the largest ever, this week there are multi-billion-dollar commercial deals with Amazon, Oracle, AMD, they're all here, Uber, Qualcomm, Johnson & Johnson, and many, many more.
The White House press office trumpets a running tally exceeding $1 trillion when combining Saudi investments with Qatar's Boeing order and Abu Dhabi's AI chip ventures. Critics told the New York Times these figures represent pledges, not contracts, noting many deals were already underway before the trip. Yet, even skeptical analysts concede that Gulf sovereign wealth is flowing toward American technology and defense sectors at unprecedented rates.
He went to Saudi Arabia and he met Mohammed bin Salman, the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia, and he cut a huge deal which promised $600 million of Saudi investment in the United States and well over 130 or 40 million in Saudi purchases of American arms. And he sort of reset the relationship that had been tenuous during the Biden administration. Then he went to Qatar, which is a rival. He met the emir, and he kind of topped the Saudi investment because they agreed to buy well over 200 777 Boeing passengers. That purchase alone could be 200 with maybe $1 trillion of investment.
These hard dollars buy leverage. The White House What They're Saying fact sheet boasts that governors from Ohio to Arizona are already courting Gulf sovereign funds for chip fabrication plants and turbine factories. But economic integration alone won't neutralize Tehran, which leads to the most precarious handshake of the trip, extending economic participation to America's longtime adversary.
Donald Trump thinks he can cut a deal with Iran so that they would do essentially three things. They would give up their nuclear program, they would stop the subsidies to the terrorist surrogates of the Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, and they would liberalize their society and re-enter the family of nations. I don't think that Shia theocracy feels that that is their agenda.
CNN called this outreach the most ambitious and perilous ask on the table. State Department sources privately acknowledge that Tehran may simply be buying time until uranium enrichment reaches weapons-grade levels. Nevertheless, the administration maintains that a revitalized maximum pressure sanctions regime stands ready if the economic carrots fail to entice Iranian cooperation.
And it's my fervent hope, wish, and even my dream that Saudi Arabia, a place I have such respect for, especially over the last fairly short period of time, what you've been able to do, but will soon be joining the Abraham Accords. I think it'll be a tremendous tribute to your country, and it will be something that's really going to be very important for the future of the Middle East.
The White House frames the Abraham Accords as the foundational architecture for a regional technology and tourism boom. Officials point to a 55% year-over-year increase in Gulf-Israel trade volumes as evidence that peace dividends are already materializing.
They're negotiating, drawing out, and hoping they can outlast the Trump administration while they get closer and closer to 90% enrichment. And they don't think that Donald Trump, given the MAGA agenda that frowns on unilateral or optional military engagements, especially in the Middle East, will be willing to sacrifice or endanger what has been a spectacular first 100 days, at least in economic terms.
This tension explains why New York Times correspondents spotted discreet anti-war demonstrations outside the Doha Forum. Though small and quickly dispersed, these protests remind us that America's Gulf courtship sits atop an Iranian fault line that could fracture at any moment, unlike the lavish welcome ceremonies broadcast globally.
So the Saudis say they're going to buy $140 billion worth of U.S. military equipment. And in addition to that, they're going to invest $600 billion in the United States. And then they go to Qatar, a rival of the Saudis. They want to outdo them, even though they're much smaller. They're going to spend somewhere well over $100 billion, maybe $200 billion on buying Boeing jets. That's a slap in the face to Europe that is angry about all this. Europe is watching all these deal making, and they are deer in the headlights. They don't know what to do because they're ideologically joined with the American left, and they have been talking about cutting their own deals with China. But they're very angry because they're not going to be selling as many Airbuses, and they don't know why Donald Trump is an American nationalist. They've never met a president in the modern era like that. So their attitude is, why is he doing these things for America?
This observation reveals the trip's global dimensions. The Middle East pivot isn't merely regional, it's a coordinated great power play connecting energy markets, defense postures, and technology supply chains across 3 continents. The administration's lofty promises of a golden age may ultimately depend less on what Trump said in ornate palaces than on whether crude oil trades below $80 per barrel in the coming quarters. As Air Force One departed the Gulf, President Trump declared the birth of a modern Middle East was underway. Victor Davis Hanson counters that the region's deep-seated conflicts could still derail these economic ambitions before they fully materialize. Which vision will prevail? Share your perspectives in the comments below and tell us which aspect of this diplomatic shakeup deserves deeper analysis. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button so more people see it. And if you want more sharp takes on global power plays, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.